Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Pioneer Masters, this time with the Spells bonus sheet. So without further ado, let's get into the pack one, pick one here, which I'm pretty happy to take the rare. I think that the five color kind of Guild Gates focus decks in the format are pretty powerful, and they all play green as the core color. So a card like this with the Converge ability getting better for the more colors of mana you spend on it is going to be pretty powerful when it is in green as that core color. So we're going to draft a bunch of green guild gates pretty highly here, hopefully get some of those really nice gate payoffs to go with this card. Or, of course, we could always just be open to taking some other powerful stuff, maybe getting pushed off that direction if green is very heavily drafted. But that's the general idea with Woodland Wanderer. Grab a bunch of guild gates and some of those gates payoffs. So pick two, we have a Wild Slash, very efficient removal out of red, ultimate price, very efficient removal out of black. There's also Experiment 1 if we want to stick to green. This is great in any more aggressive green deck. Just keeps getting bigger as the game progresses. I've consistently seen this thing be like a 4/4 and up, which is absurd for 1 mana. It can even protect itself later sometimes. I'm a huge fan of Experiment 1. I think I'm just going to take that here and stick to our green. I definitely like it a little better than Conclave Naturalists. This card is a little bit narrow. Your opponent isn't always going to have an artifact or enchantment on board, so a 5 mana 4/4 without an enter effect is pretty weak. But when it does blow up an artifact or enchantment, it is a really, really good deal. So it's a little high variance. I think I'd prefer the Experiment 1 here. But this is an excellent pack. Slash, Ultimate Price, and Conclave Naturalists are also very viable options. For pick 3, we've got the Voyaging Satyr. This is kind of a sweet card for green. A lot of the green decks tend to be um, just loaded up with like 4 and 5 mana plays. So being able to skip up to those plays a little faster with that ramp plays pretty well. The Alpha Authority is pretty annoying. I've had this played against me a few times. And obviously, Hexproof is kind of egregious. Any targeted removal is not going to be able to deal with the card anymore, and it can only be blocked by one creature. So you have to have a creature big enough to trade into it on blocks, or that thing's just going to demolish your soul. I think Alpha Authority is playable, but I'm a big fan of Voyaging Satyr, so I'm going to stick to that. As for anything off color that could really push us in another direction, there's not too much. The Jessian Thief is a nice card draw engine if you have the tools to make sure that it keeps hitting your opponent. So if you're just a removal heavy control deck, or you have some kind of way to give it flying, then it plays well. Or like the Ghostblade Eidolon is fine for all the white, heroic, and aura based kind of decks. Pick four. No green guild gates have been opened. It's all the off-color guild gates. At some point, we might just start taking those because we are now getting somewhat deep into green, and of course, we have that Woodland Wanderer. I'm gonna guess Miming Slime is part of the spells bonus sheet because I haven't seen it around before now, or I've just completely disregarded it. This card is risky because it's quite high variance, where when you're in a good position and you have a big creature on board, well, now you're going to get another big one. But if you're not in a good position and your creatures are small or non existent, then you top deck this and you're in a really bad spot because it does literally nothing. So this does not seem like a particularly good new addition to the format. I guess we just take a Guildgate here, honestly. I do like Heliod's Pilgrim and Ghostblade Eidolon in those white kind of aura-based decks, but I don't think they're massively high picks. Treasure Cruise is probably my favorite of these cards, but we're really far away from a Treasure Cruise deck right now. So I'll just take a Guildgate. Pretty speculative there, but it could pan out fine for us. Pick 5, the Gnarlback Rhino is a very sweet green card, a 4 mana 4/4, and whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you get to draw a card. So if you have any auras of your own or combat tricks, it gets even better, but just the 4 mana 4/4 trample is already good. Gateway Plaza is fine in 5 color gates if we go the full 5 color instead of like some 3 color sort of build. But I don't take that one as high as the others because it's very mediocre if you aren't going for pretty much all 5 colors. Pick 6, Hornet Nest. This is another pretty high variance card. If your opponent has a way to blow it up without dealing it any damage, then it's still decent, because your opponent has to spend a 1-for-1 removal spell on it. The only time it's terrible is if your opponent can just get right past it, like if they have a bunch of flyers, which has happened to me before, but any other time can be pretty annoying, and this pack is not that sweet. I suppose starting with a woodland, or not woodland wanderer, gnarlback rhino and experiment one for really aggressive green cards Hero of Lena Tower is also interesting. If we went like green, white, heroic, play a bunch of auras on these cards, that would play well with the hero, the Gnarlback Rhino, even the Experiment one to an extent, just being an aggressive card. So that's kind of interesting, but I think it's still just the Hornet Nest. Pick 7, another Gnarlback Rhino. There's also Skyrider Elf, but this is one of the weaker Converge payoffs. It's basically just an X mana XX flyer, which is solid, but you do have to spend a bunch of colors to get it to be big later. It's not like super exciting. Gear per Gearcrafter is one of my favorite red cards. So that's pretty late for that, but I mean, Gnarlback Rhino is one of the better green ones as well. Just stick mono green here. Maybe not the greatest spot for Woodland Wanderer, but this leaves us really open to whatever the strongest secondary color is in this draft pod. We do not have to be glued or married to the whole Gates strategy here. Pick 8, Glade Cover Scout if we want to go really deep on auras, but generally kind of mediocre. This pack's pretty mediocre overall, though. Skirmisher is probably my favorite card. If you are blue, you can trade it off twice, but even that is just kind of okay. Speculate on a Guildgate again. Yeah. Pick 9. Maybe green-red is the thing. We saw some solid red cards really late a couple picks ago. Really the Gear per Gearcrafter being my favorite, but wheeling the Gore Clan Rampager all around the draft pod seems very nice for just green-red beats. So I kind of like that as the path to take here. Pick 10, there's the Limits of Solidarity. This is one of the better active trees and sort of effects because if it isn't gonna just like win you the game, you can just cycle it away, draw something else. But if it is, obviously you just cast it. Pick 11, we get one of these Alpha Authorities. I don't know if we'll end up running this. I suppose it depends on the quantity of just like beef that we have at the top of our curve. Kind of need a lot, and ideally some like heroic synergies. I think Miming Slime is just inconsistent enough for Glade Cover Scout to be better, but I just don't think Glade Cover Scout's good in green-red anyway. Yeah, this is an awkward pick. I'll go for the Glade Cover Scout, regardless. Just rare draft a Stormtide Leviathan for Vault Progress? No, Urban Evolution is probably solid. Draw 3, play an extra land. If we don't end up in green-red, that is a solid card for green-blue, or just like 5-color gates kind of nonsense. Okay, pack 2, pick 1. We get to go green-red because we've opened a great aggro rare. The Goblin Rabblemaster spits out a 1/1 hasting goblin that attacks each turn, every turn. And when it attacks, it gets +1 for each other attacking goblins. This just makes an incredibly big, incredibly wide board state super quickly. Great aggro card. We will scoop that right up and just be some GRUUL beat down here. Probably ideally not running the random hexproof cards. But I guess Alpha Authority onto a Gnarlback Rhino is pretty rude. That is kind of interesting. If we end up with like 3 or 4 copies of Rhino, that could be fair reasoning to go for that. Got another Voyaging Satyr here, and this is kind of what I was talking about with the green decks in general being so top heavy. If you look at our mana curve here, we have 2 3-drops. We already have 4 4-mana cards, though. So using the Voyaging Satyr to just jump right up over the 3-drops and cast a 4-mana card on turn 3 seems really valuable to where I can take it over Boundary Lands Ranger. We could also take a Dreadbore here, try to get a bunch of black guild gates to splash that in. We currently have no gates to help do that, but if we find the right colors, that's going to both help splash Dreadbore in and make Woodland Wanderer a little stronger. So it is a little more main deckable. I mean, this is a 4-mana 4/4 Vigilance Trample in a 2-color deck. Yeah, no, this card's just great, period. Don't even need that 3rd color splash, but that would be the big reasoning towards Dreadbore there. I think that's the best off-color card to take. All right, pick 3. Well, now I can take a Dreadbore, but Rimrock Knight is one of the better red aggro cards. Very flexible. It triggers your heroic stuff as well, which can be good. So if we Boulder Rush onto a Gnarlback Rhino, that's an incredible deal. Our Rimrock Knight is now drawing us a card, dealing 2 extra damage, and making the 2-mana 3/1 body later. Yeah, Rimrock Knight is great with double Rhino. I think I just want to take that here. So many of the cards in the spells bonus sheet are just not that exciting. Alive and Well here, get a 3/3 and gain some life. Well, sometimes gains you a whole ton of life, but not super often. Pick 4. Hey, it is better. Voyaging Satyr, the Sylvan Caryatid. That's pretty exciting, but I'm really low on interaction here. I'm super low on ways to actually deal with our opponent's threats. So picking up a Wild Slash, even though it can't kill the bigger creatures, is still going to be super helpful for like little flyers and stuff that it's hard for us to block. So Wild Slash still got to be the pick there. Boundary Lands Ranger looks great for this deck. We've got tons of 4-power creatures at 4 mana to start drawing through our deck with this, cycling out anything we don't need. Pick 6, another Boundary Lands Ranger looks solid, but Audacity plays pretty well with the Gnarlback Rhinos, again, for drawing those extra cards. And we're a pretty aggressive deck in general. Even just shoving an Audacity onto a 2-mana 2/2 is going to be pretty threatening. And this replaces itself when that creature dies. I like the Audacity, actually, quite a bit for this deck. And now we can take another Boundary Lands Ranger, be perfectly happy with that. I think this is probably a little better than Leafcrown Dryad. That card selection, if you're flooding out in the late game, is very, very nice at keeping your deck more consistent. Leafcrown Dryad is surprisingly, like, somewhat similar in that, like, if you draw it in the late game when you're flooding out, you can use it as the aura and get some more value out of it later. So it's also kind of flood prevention a little bit. It's flexible. You play it as a 2 or 4 mana card, but I think I like the Ranger better. There's also Zendikar Incarnate, which can be quite large. My issue with the Incarnate here is we have a lot of stuff going on at 4 mana, and I think those cards can be a little bit more replaceable. We want to really make sure that we are getting that curve started in the early game and then scoop up the rest of our big 4 or 5 mana finishers. Turn and Burn is absolutely playable, just as 2 mana deal 2 to any target. This is the best fuse card that they put in off of the spells bonus sheet. I think I just take that. Maybe we'll get some blue Guild Gates towards the Wanderer and the turn half of Turn and Burn. But even just playing Burn is perfectly fine. It's a little bit overcosted, obviously. 2 mana, 2 damage instead of the 1 mana, 2 damage that Wild Slash gives us, but just 2 damage to any target at instant speed is inherently quite valuable. Grab a GRUUL Guildgate here. Technically, the Gateway Plaza would be a blue source for us, but the cost of playing a tap land and tapping an additional land is quite large. It makes you play well off of curve. So that is a super hefty cost for any deck trying to be even remotely aggressive, and we are certainly trying to be aggressive here. So I do not want Gateway Plazas in this deck. I also probably don't want the Bloodfire Enforcer, the Nessian Asp, Commune with Gods. Alright, we're almost at a complete deck here, and we wield the Zendikar Incarnate, so actual genius. 20 IQ. Anyways, we've got Oath of Chandra here. 2 mana, deal 3 to target creature and opponent controls. That is a solid removal spell for us, and we're super low on removal. We've also got Fight with Fire. 3 mana, deal 5 to a creature, which I think is going to be a little better for us. We have 2 ways to deal 2 to something. This is, again, a little bit more expensive than Oath of Chandra, but I think that's fine so that we actually have some removal to kill something bigger. This also has that flexibility. If you draw in a late game with 9 mana up, you cast this as just an absolute win condition instead of a removal spell, so it's a great draw in the late game. Huge fan of the Fight with Fire. Also plenty a fan of the Oath of Chandra, so we'll take that pick number 2. We actually cheated. We get to take 2 cards out of the same pack here. Don't worry about it. I'm going to remove this Gladecover Scout. I think I'm removing this Alpha Authority. Got enough other good non-creature spells. I don't think that'll fit. We are not so deep on Heroic to want these 1-drop Heroic cards, so I will take the big old Hydra here. 6 mana, 6/6 Trample is not the greatest deal ever. But if this ends up in your graveyard, then you get 2 creatures off the card, which is really nice. So 6/6 Trample, they blow it up, then you recast it as another 6/6 Trample. This is definitely at its best in green-black, where you're self-milling a lot, so that you can randomly embalm this as a 4 mana 6/6 Trample. But even here, I think it should be fine, just getting 2 creatures off the 1 card. One of the good synergies for that is like cards like Commune with Gods. We could play even if we're not playing black, and that could potentially mill it. But I think we're too late in the draft to try to consistently get cards like that into this deck. Here's another Audacity that's fine with the Rhinos. I like the Leaf Crown Dryad here being flexible as a 2 or a 4 drop, but we also have the Colony Ambush. We're not at the point that we desperately need removal anymore. Between Wild Slash, Oath of Chandra, Burn, and Fight with Fire, we've got quite a bit, but this is still certainly an option. 16 creatures, 7 non-creatures. It's actually the whole deck right here. It's 23 non-land cards, 1 land. So if I take Leaf Crown Dryad, I put that in over the Asp. It's another card to synergize with like Gnarlback Rhino and stuff. I don't know. I think more removal is always good. And we can maybe just cut a land straight up for this. Especially if we get 2 copies, like if I take this Colony Ambush. But another Experiment one is very, very exciting to me. So I'm just going to take that. And we might get this Zendikar Incarnate back since we did last time as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, it's possible. Last card in the pack is another Zendikar Incarnate. I don't know if we'll play both because we have just so much other stuff at 4 mana. And I think every other one of our 4 mana plays is better than Zendikar Incarnate. This is like a potentially really high power creature, but that's all it is. Maybe like a 6/4 or 7/4 in the late game. But it can still just get chump blocked and stuff. Every other 4 drop we have is pretty much just as big as it the turn we play it, a 4 mana 4/4 at least, but also has trample to actually get some damage in, and they all do something a little bit extra. It's like trample plus something else. Trample plus vigilance, trample plus draw cards maybe, trample plus you can use this as a combat trick. Our other 4 drops are all definitely better than the incarnates, so at least the second incarnate is almost 100% to get cut. Okay, if I get another Gnarlback Rhino, I'd probably ditch all the incarnates. See if we can get some Colony Ambushes back. Because the ambushes play really well with the Rhino as well. Yeah, do I just improve a Rhino here, or do I take an ambush and go 16 land double ambush? You know, let's go 16 land double ambush. Don't believe we're playing... Well, Witch's Mark is actually pretty solid card selection. I've got triple Boundary Lands Ranger filling that role, and I don't really have a lot of heroic cards that care too much about the Wicked role, but it is really good with the Gnarlback Rhinos. So there's that at least. We'll take the option, because I'm not going to play anything else in that pack. Pretty much guaranteed. Let's just rare draft some stuff we don't have yet. Grab these Expedites, because they might be on the spell's bonus sheet. Again, I'm not super well versed on the spells bonus sheet because it's the only bonus sheet in this set that actually just doesn't matter at all. The Planeswalker bonus sheet is the bonus sheet that came out the turn or the week the set came out. So that was like the big one for getting into the format, learning the format. You learn that Planeswalker bonus sheet. And then the Devotion bonus sheet is the coolest, most interesting bonus sheet, and the bonus sheet that's going to be here during the Arena Open. So the Spells bonus sheet just doesn't have anything going for it. Like, you don't have to learn it at all. If you're going to play the set competitively, you're playing the Devotion bonus sheet, and the Spells bonus sheet is irrelevant. So it's a little weird, the way they do it there. Anyways, this should be a pretty easy deck to build. We just need to cut a few cards now, one of which can definitely be a land. It's automatically putting islands in for our turn and burn. I don't think it would be terrible to just cut turn and burn, because now we have Wild Slash, Oath of Chandra, Fight with Fire, and 2 Colony Ambushes, so the less efficient burn is not great. I don't think I'm going to run a single island. I guess I have Evolving Wilds. So 1 island to maybe get really lucky and cast both turn and burn, or get really lucky and make a 5/5 Woodland Wanderer instead of a 4/4 is slightly interesting. I just really don't think it's necessary, so I'm just going to go for more consistent mana. Cut the turn and burn, cut a land, and probably the Zendikar Incarnates, it looks like. Should make things real easy here. If I cut those 2, I still have 15 creatures in the deck. Seems fine. I mean, these do play well with the Audacities. Trampling up the highest power creature in our deck is exciting. Just think everything else looks more important and better for the deck. Maybe like a Limits of Solidarity is a little random. Just see if we can cheese out lethal when we're lucky. Yeah, some combination of these. Maybe even a land again. We do have double ambush. I really don't want to play too many tap lands in here. So I like the usual cutting the flip lands, cutting lands 50-50 for flip lands so that half the time we're casting as a spell, half as a land on average. Yeah, I'll just cut the incarnates here. Keep the limits of solidarity. See how it plays for us. I feel like this is probably decent. Like when an active treason would win you the game, you've got your active treason. When it wouldn't, you can actually cycle it away. Like cycling's a really good ability to put on a card like that. That is pretty narrow. Yeah, looks like a pretty spicy GRUUL aggro deck. We could luck into some really gross curve outs with Experiment 1. If we go like Experiment 1 into a 2/2, into some other 2-drop on turn 3, and then like a 4/4 on turn 4. It's going to be a really, really gross turn. A really gross curve out, I should say. Or like Experiment 1 into a 2/2, into a Fight with Fire, or an Oath of Chandra, or a Wild Slash to clear out a blocker, and then play the 4-mana 4/4. Yeah. Experiment 1, anything, removal, 4/4. That's the dream curve, and it looks like a really strong curve out this deck is capable of. We've got 14 green cards and 11 red. I did forget to double check the mana base here. With double Colony Ambush both being green sources, we basically already have a little bit more green mana sources than red mana sources, which is exactly where we want to be. So I will keep the mana base like that. Call it a deck here. And it's time to hop into the gameplay and see how it does. All right, here we are on the play for game number 1. We have Experiment 1. We don't have the 2 or 3 mana follow-up for it, so it's not going to level up anytime soon, get any bigger. But we've got removal for the first creature and the excellent rhinos for later on. Ooh. Sure. I'll throw an Audacity on that. It's still going to have 1 toughness, which means with cards like Gnarlback Rhinos, with the high toughness cards, it's still going to evolve just as easily, because evolving works based on power or toughness. So we'll just get all this extra damage in early. And still expect to evolve this bad boy real quick. So our opponent is likely on a Gates deck here. They've got Azorius Guildgate and Gateway Plaza as their first 2 lands. And there's Golgari Guildgate. So let's see if they have the cheap removal for Experiment 1. They do indeed. So we draw a card off Audacity and start slamming down Rhinos. Another Audacity, alright. Audacity on a Rhino is quite a bit extra damage. Hornet Nest is very bad in this matchup. It's probably the biggest issue with Hornet Nest is that one of the most popular decks in this format, one of the strongest, most popular decks, is the Gates deck, which is just really slow and controlling and doesn't really care about the Hornet Nest. So I kind of forgot about that when I drafted it. Like, this is really bad against blue-white flyers. Should be fine against anything else, but I lied. It's actually also pretty bad against Gates, because they're just not going to attack until they've already won the game, pretty much. Just until the Hornet Nest is irrelevant. Play around a Gates Ablaze here. That's the one benefit of the Hornet Nest. They're at 10 life, though, so if I just play a Gnarlback Rhino here, I have them dead next turn. Unless they have exactly Gates Ablaze and they go Guildgate Gates Ablaze, Gnarlback Rhino is the better play. I just think that is so possible for a Gates deck, though, that I'm going to live in fear. We're going to just play Hornet Nest. This is insanely good if their hope and dream is to Gates Ablaze, which it looks like it isn't, because they cast an Ocean Thief, which I don't think they would if they were going to Gates Ablaze. But I mean, I guess if they Gates Ablaze against Hornet Nest, it's super bad for them, so maybe their mind changed and that's why they played the Thief. Which, by the way, somehow played insanely well that we didn't Audacity pre-combat that turn, because that made it so... Ooh, I could just play another Rhino here. Yeah, probably better to play another Rhino. That made it so they didn't draw any cards off that Notion Thief. They would have got us pretty well. Alright, Gatebreaker Ram's out of the way. Draw a card, slam down a Gnarlback Rhino. number 2. I'm not sure we've made the right plays with the information we've had at the time, but they have all worked out as perfectly as possible so far. There's the Night Howler, which will be a trade with Gnarlback Rhino again. Colony Ambush. Get 4 Wasps, get 4 Hornets is interesting. I mean, they don't have haste. Still just worth cashing in here. Probably. Oh my god, it's in each graveyard. Oh, okay. It was definitely not worth cashing in. Why did I think Night Howler was just their graveyard? Obviously it wasn't. That was a bad sequence. Alright, well these Hornets are still an issue. Okay. Man, we might just lose because that was silly. We had to just let it resolve. Rebel Master's a 4-2, right? Yeah. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 1 damage off? So now I need them to not have removal. Oh, I so would have won if I didn't do the Call in the Ambush thing. Because then I just Call in the Ambush the War Kite instead. I still have all these Hornets, but I don't take all that Night Howler damage. If I send in the whole team, they can just block a Goblin, take 5, 6, 7, 8, be at 1, and then kill me on the crackback. Probably do this. Make sure I don't die to 1 removal spell. Well, I definitely won't forget that part of Night Howler in the future. Oh, Archway Angel. Oh, Flood. I guess that's deserved at this point. It's the kind of thing you gotta get got by 1 time, and then you're like, okay, well, not gonna forget that anymore. Just have the trample trick in the 5-color deck. The 4/4 thing. Oh, turn and burn? Okay. It's not the trample trick, we're still around. I mean, these draws are frustrating, but we deserve these draws. What is this Wooburg spell? Do not do anything when they're at 18 life. That does something. Next turn. So they've got a removal spell, though. We're dead here. Just take 8 in the sky. I have to kill the Archangel. You got me. Well played from our opponent, and one pivotal misplay completely dumpsters the game for us. We are 0-1 heading into game 2. Alright, here we are for game 2. A little bit high on mana, but the Boundary Lands Ranger can potentially draw us out of that later. The Witch's Mark as well. It's a lot of card selection in this hand. Oh no! Boros from our opponent, the super annoying Sovereign to keep their aggro going here. Witch's Mark, once I have a Rhino down, could be really exciting. So we'll set that up. Oh no! Aggressive, just slashing everything out here. Oh. If they don't have the removal for the Rhino, this card is going to be devastating. Witcher's Mark plus Rimrock Knight. Gets us way ahead in cards here. That looks like they do not have the removal for it. Let's go. Witcher's Mark. Oh my god! Oh, this is so rude. Whee! Gnarlback Rhino is the truth. It's actually just like an infinite combo deck secretly. Woo! Might as well have the 9/5 Gnarlback Rhino. Show me the Banishing Light or die. There is no Banishing Light in this set. I've been playing too much Magic Foundations, if you can't tell. It's my first Pioneer Masters draft in a while. Since the very first time I did the spell sheet. Try to attack for lethal here. I feel like my position is insanely good if I don't, so I might as well hold all the mana up and just blow these up, just in case they have the instant removal for the Gnarlback Rhino. Okay, tapping it is not the worst. That would have made the Limits of Solidarity horrible here, so I'm very happy I chose to wait. Let's kill the Sovereign, it's just a little more annoying. Get our second threat out for the future. I cannot block with my Rimrock Knight, so I'll go to 9. These are my favorite kind of card styles. I love the storybook frames from Eldraine. But I really like all the alternate, like actual like physical card styles. I'm about to deal 12. No. Ooh, they are going to kill the Gnarlback Rhino. Alright, well, we'll draw 2. That'll be fine. Hello there, Wild Slash. Oh, that's a 5/5 right now. Can we follow it up? Punt for punt? That would be hilarious. Alright, well now we'll do that. Because obviously saving the fight with fire for 10 mana is going to be incredible. Sorry, 9 mana. It's 9 mana to deal 10 damage. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, I've got all 9 mana. I just need to play these lands out. It takes a couple more turns here. Question is, can I survive a couple more turns without running it out? Maybe. I'm going to cycle this towards something to deal with Tactician. Ideally. Okay. Good enough threat here to run that out. Definitely an argument to just fight with Fire the Tactician, but I kill them next turn if I untap. If I'm really concerned they have a way to lethal me here, then we just fight with fire. Okay. I guess I might as well do 3 to Tactician, 7 to them. Because I can't think of any, like, instant speed life gain. And even if they had some, I've got the Rhino on board for some more damage if they tap out for life gain. Alright. 1 and 1 made up for the super bad punt in the first game. We have now averaged it out as we head into game number 3. Alright, here we are for game 3. I guess turn 3 I can double Borderlands Ranger. It's Boundary Lands Ranger. The Borderland Ranger was like a 3-mana 2/2 that found a basic from your deck. But it's Borderlands Ranger, let's be honest. Ooh. I suppose it's a little more exciting to just play a 4/4. This way, when I run both of these out, they both immediately trigger. And I'm holding off the Slide Runner from attacks if they don't have a trick. Okay, well, they're at least bluffing, but I imagine they probably have, like, deal 2 or something. Maybe the Rimrock Knight or something like that. Okay, 1 mana away from the Honored Hydra, so I will keep playing lands. But then I'm going to discard these lands to the Rangers. Well, discarding the Hydra is theoretically spicy, but, like, if I draw the mana for it anyway, then I get 2 creatures out of it. I get the 6/6, then it dies, then I get another 6/6. They probably don't have Exile in Jund over there. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to it. But it's definitely reasonably good value to ditch it to a Ranger there, so that it's definitely a line we could have gone for. Drag Mangler. Sure. Two mana up. Yeah, sure. Show me the trick. Use it on find an inconsequential creature here. They do not. Could just be like the 2 damage burn spell or something. Oh, Boulder Salvo with the Surge? Alright. That's rough. No! I mean, we did hit the land, but we didn't at the same time. The double Call the Ambush tap lands. Alright, well, we've got the Hydra next turn. Could ambush their Satyr there. About to activate Quagmire. 2/2 Death Touch. Nope, Blood Tithe Harvester is the play. Down to 10. Their own Gore Clan Rampager. Alright, I really need them to not... Okay, Solidarity on Harvester is interesting. But overall, I really need them to not kill Armored Hydra. I think we just play that. Whoop. Wrong button. Okay, they're just gonna Harvester the Ranger, fair enough. Sack the blood token to draw a card. Golgari Guildgate. Bunch of mana and one card in hand. On board, the Hydra is keeping us stable. Just need the no removal from opponent. This could be Chump Attack with Mangler and then Scavenge onto the Rampager. To have a 7/7 against our 6/6. Very smart, very reasonable line from our opponent, but we happen to have a real good card against that line. And that is 2-1, heading into game number 4. Alright, here we go for game a lot. It's game number 4 now. I am super fine with this hand. We're against another, probably Boros Heroic deck, but this hand should be solid for the matchup. Got the Oath for their first creature. I've got these sturdy blocks later with the ambush to use on them. It's Rakdos, but they do have the Dragon Mantle for the Ukroan Crusader, so that's some solid value for our opponent. Okay, that... I'm really not unhappy with them just blowing a Supernatural Strength for 1/1/1. We could have went for Satyr there, but that'd be pretty risky against a deck that has already shown off they're probably running a million combat tricks. Baleful Eidolon and Zurgo Bellstriker. Wow, they just went all in on aggro here, Jesus. Yeah, we could still die. We'll see. Luckily, we did naturally hit the mana to play our 4-drops next turn. So if they do have the cheap removal to follow through, we'll still get a solid blocker. Big yikes from that. Whenever another non-token creature control dies, they flip the Liliana, start reanimating things from grave, making each player discard a card when they're already out of cards. Yeah, I just can't kill one of their creatures here, or Liliana kills me. But I also can't kill Liliana. God dang it. I think we could crush this if it weren't for Liliana, but Liliana just makes this so difficult. Well, here we are. We're about to flip their Liliana for sure. Guess we discard a Voyaging Satyr. Zulaport Cutthroats? Talk about magical Christmas land. Good lord, opponent, give me a break. Please. I want to live. Oh, man. Well, congratulations to opponent for the best hand I have seen in the entire spells bonus sheet. This has nothing to do with the spells bonus sheet, but I think I've seen stronger hands during the Planeswalker bonus sheet era just because, you know, Ashiok is ridiculous. But this is insane. Pretty strong deck from our opponent, but also this has got to be like the S tier kind of draw for them. Yeah, just reanimate the Crusader. Go wide. Oh boy. Ambush is instant speed, so I can go for blocks and ambush with the Rhino. Yep, 3 mana up thanks to the other Satyr to be able to do both of these things. Maybe ditch the Woodland Wanderer. Oh, they've got an instant too to ruin my ambush here. I mean, they clearly had like some instant kind of maybe combat trick there, but they decided to hold off because they could tell I'm holding up an instant. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about this. There is no better time to do this than to kill the Cutthroat before anything else dies, because I'm dead on board if I don't do this. Oh. Okay, Devour Flesh kind of sucks there. I was so scared. They kept thinking with that instant, they're holding it up and stuff. I'm like, and then it's like, okay, well, we're alive for now. But not drawing any more removal could get us killed here, so we need to Witch's Mark into it. Experiment 1 is not it. Yeah, I mean, they just attack both and I take 2 no matter what I do. It's gotta be removal here. Hornet Nest is not removal, but I can block one of them without killing it. And then I die next turn, but, you know. Wow. All right. Opponent is just has mastered the format. That is ridiculous. We are 2-2 heading into game number 5. Here we are now for game number 5, and Arena does not want to let our deck show off its S-tier hands. Forced Mulligan here into a 6-card opener is going to start us off. If I don't hit my mana, I can cycle the limits. It's a little risky, because I'll have to play off curve for it, potentially. Where I play the Ranger, and then turn 3 I just don't play any creatures. Alright, well, now I'm playing Experiment 1 first. Okay, good draw is good. They've got an instant here. This could be make the 2/2 Knight with Selesnya Charm. It's not horrible for me. Trade a 2/2 for a 2/2. I trade my 1-drop for their 2-drop. Oh no, that's better for me. I mean, I don't have any blue cards, but kill a 2/2 Reach instead of a 2/2 Vigilance. Well, I guess we don't have any flyers either. Yeah, that's basically just getting Selesnya Charmed there. I mean, not an insane Hornet Nest matchup. That's a lot of green mana, though. Could be some beefy creatures. No! You're not supposed to play flyers against Hornet Nest? When will I learn this card is just actual trash? Never. Oh. Well, green-red does not have a way to kill a really beefy flyer like that, so we lose. I actually do have one way in the deck. I'm going to play the Gnarlback Rhino first, so I get some more card draw towards it, but I need to hit Fight with Fire, and I need to hit it yesterday. It's our one way to kill a 5 toughness card. But yeah, I mean, if your opponent just gets a trampling lifelinking creature that you don't have the removal for, you are never going to outrace them. You are locked in for the loss. So I think this run may be over. But I do have a lot of card draw to try to find the Fight with Fire. These are not it. If I draw it right now, I won't have the mana up anyway, so I might as well Evolving Wilds to thin a land out of the deck. And then Audacity. We're doing so much digging. I mean, it's one card out of like 20 at this point, so the odds are still pretty bad, but man, we have cycled through a lot of stuff. Two more draws. Fight with Fire. Nope. One more draw. Also not Fight with Fire. Wow. These last two games really did not feel winnable at all. Just demolished by some sick combos. Our opponent just curved out like crazy, topping it off with a Liliana to make any kills horrible for us. And then the final game, just a big, beefy, lifelinking flyer is going to be a miserable time for a GRUUL deck, especially one with Hornet Nest, the biggest underperformer of the day, and I think it's been the biggest underperformer before. So I'm likely to never draft this again. I've probably said that before, though, honestly. But I probably would not draft this unless I'm a Gates deck with a couple Gates Ablaze in it, because that combo is really nice when you Gates Ablaze your own Hornet Nest and wipe the board, because the Hornet Nest holds your opponent off from attacking for a little bit, which gets them to commit more creatures to the board, so your Gates Ablaze both kills more cards and gives you a bunch of insects off of the Hornet Nest. That's like the really cool thing you can do with this card, but god, I have ran into so many matchups with this card is miserably bad. We've basically just spent 3 mana to discard a card, or 3 mana to mulligan, like in that last game where our opponent played literally nothing but flyers. So yeah, those last two games, super rough stuff. Those were pretty locked in, guaranteed losses. That is just the way of the game. That's going to happen. But what we should focus on and could do better is to know what Night Howler does. It gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures in all graveyards. So going for the cheeky little colony ambush, trying to get those hornets there, got our Gnarlback Rhino killed, and more importantly, allowed our opponent to keep the Night Howler on board in that trade. If we hadn't have done that, the Gnarlback Rhino and the Night Howler would have just traded into each other. Both ended up in the graveyard, and we could slowly but surely win the game from there, but we let them keep the Night Howler, and that thing just kept getting bigger and bigger and absolutely crushing us. So that was the one super, super winnable game to look back on. The Colony Ambush Hornet Nest misplay against Night Howler. Night Howler, any cards that like their power and toughness can randomly change in the middle of combat, you can definitely really get got if you're not paying attention. And We absolutely got on that one. To be 2-3 right now instead of 3-2, and from 3-2, who knows where it could go from here. This would be it depends on what our opponents are playing from then on. This could turn into a 7-win run if we're really lucky, or maybe just a nice solid average 4-3, 5-3 is what I would about expect out of this deck. So definitely tragic to hit the 2-3 with it, but it was self-imposed with our early Night Howler misplay. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in the recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.